Hi, welcome to the space. This is Jessica Ivgy. We are practicing here practical spirituality. We take one tip from the Parashat Shavua of the Jewish Bible, and we try to analyze it and see how could we get help for our spiritual side, but in a really practical way, so we can actually do it. I don't think spirituality has to be something that is hard to get. I think real spirituality is an actual movement we can actually practice and do to make our lives practical but spiritual too, and make it even really, really possible. If it's not possible, maybe it's not real spirituality. Maybe it's just, a lot of new age that has really no connections to the here and now. And that's basically what this channel is about. So let's start. We're talking about Parashat Vayeshev. And I always feel obligated to say sorry for the English speakers that hear me. I might miss words because I'm really used to talking in Hebrew in these kind of matters, but never really actually had to speak in English, like in spiritual sense. So I might miss words or might get confused, but I'm sure that we'll be able to understand the meanings of what I'm saying. So, okay. So Parashat Vayeshev talks about it talks about a lot of stuff, but one of the things here is actually like the selling of Yosef. I think that's a really bad thing, which, his brothers were envy of him and they threw him in the pit, and these Arab people came and bought him and took him into slavery, and he ended up being a king, okay, in Egypt. And so that's one thing that was bitter but became sweet. Another thing that was bitter and became sweet in this parasha is Judah, who was with his daughter-in-law, but he didn't know he was with her because she had this mask on her face, and he actually thought her to be a woman that sells herself, um, and then she got pregnant, and people thought that she was doing stuff that was against family honor, and she was about to get executed, and right then she showed him that she actually has his stuff that he gave her as a sign that he is the man she was with, and she showed it to him without spelling his name in front of everybody. She did it in a very smart manner. He saw that, he appreciated it, and he was just truthful right then and there, and he said, well, I'm the man, and she's innocent, and she got what she deserved in a very good way. So that's also kind of something that was bitter but turned into good. And this is what we're talking about here today, just how to bring a good thing, a bitter thing, and turn it into sweetness, bitterness into sweetness, just how good could actually be bad, could actually be good, even though we think it's bad. Okay, so that's like the main big thing we're talking about, but I want to bring three sorts of ways to do it, and it's all given by really smart people from the Jewish movement, from the Hasidut. This specifically is the Memad Pnimi, the inner dimension, by Arav Ginsburg, which I really, really appreciate his books and how he brings everything so, so available, and he brings obviously very smart ancient people. Okay, so one tip to do it, they actually talk about the name Tamar, which is tam is finishing something, tam like finished, and mar, bitterness. So tam mar is basically saying, like, let's end, it's over with the bitterness, basically. So that's like a very nice idea, but how do we actually do it? So 3 tips I want to bring here today. First movement of like how we do it is actually doing it in our minds. Means okay, so I'm actually gonna have to like translate it in my mind to be able to bring it forward here. Okay, so he's actually thinking, it's talking about thoughts that are not innocent, that are bitter, that are bad, that are not nice. And I think we all have like the thoughts that we don't want other people to know we're thinking. Maybe we're ashamed of it. Maybe we feel guilty for even having them. And I could totally relate. People who had a tough uh, upbringing or just really hard life or whatever, their thoughts are probably not going to be so innocent. And sometimes we may be and I'm not talking about people acting bad. I'm talking about people who choose right all the time, but they still have to deal with thoughts, if it's unholy, if it's not innocent, if it's maybe even violent thoughts in our mind. And we don't want to say like what we're really thinking because we are kind of ashamed of it. And we sometimes get to even think, well, what does it say about me? Like if I'm thinking these thoughts, I'm just going to give you one example from my own life. I but it took me a while to understand it doesn't mean anything about me. Like when I go to a store or whatever and the cashier opens the money or whatever, I forgot how it's called, and the drawer opens and I see all this money. Like I will never steal. I promise. I would never steal. But I'm just saying, like I do, like it does cross my mind. Oh my God, I could, like in a second could pick that up, and have a lot of money. So that's like a kind of thought that I have that I was really ashamed of. Like I would feel like I'm a criminal just having these thoughts. But it took me a while to understand like you're not ashamed of the thoughts you have in your mind. You're not obligated to not think. You can't control. It just happens. It comes to you. It's like nature. It just comes and it goes. That's all you could really think. So you don't have to feel bad about it. But well, that's what I want to say basically. So what he says here is like a way of dealing with it so you don't feel bad about having these thoughts is understanding and accepting that these thoughts they actually come from a higher source, which is God, or if you wouldn't want to say God, so you could say like, I don't know, anything that's spiritual that's above you. Okay, so I do believe in God. I do. So well, obviously I'm a religious Jewish person, but I'm talking here to everybody. So if you want to say anything else, whatever, you could. Okay, so just understanding that that thought is actually connected to a higher point in this world that is the as it's like the beginning starts from all thoughts where they come from. So if you're connected to that place, so it's not coming out of you, it's coming from there and just comes through you. So you're not the one who brought them here. They just came. And when you actually just take into consideration, this is not my thoughts. It's God. It comes from the source, and the source is good. So at that moment, you made bitterness into a very sweet place. You just turned it into good because you gave it back to the source. Let's see if it says anything that I would want to say. Okay, so he actually talks about the technique. So he says you think it, right? I mean, it says here actually the Baal Shem Tov says it. Im choshev be'avar ra'ah, like if you think on a good thing that it's bad, like these bad thoughts. You think it's good because it comes from the good, but you feel it as it's bad because that's how you experience it. You judge it as bad. So you think that, and then you regret it right away. And you say in your heart, what have I done? Like, what have I thought? Like, the fact that you say it is kind of not being one with that thought, and it makes you it says it's not yours, the fact that you regret having it. I mean, don't beat yourself for it, but you have it, just regret it. And then 4, it says bring it into the beginning point of everything, the 0 points. That's where everything is just good and just godly. If you bring it there, I mean, if you say, okay, I'm throwing it back to God, so then it says and then you just come. Well, basically it means you're gonna feel good about it because you're gonna say, wow, if that's something I don't even want and I like it so much, like, if I mean, I do want the money, I do, like, when I see this badge of cash, I like the money, I'm not gonna lie. But the bad thought is like the way you get it, that's not right. So I'm not gonna say I don't like the money. Money is bad. No, just getting it in a bad way, that's a bad. And just the thought of how I'm gonna get the money in a bad way, that's what I'm putting away with this work that I'm doing and bringing it all to the source, the 0 points in my soul. And that's where I say, I don't want this anymore. But I don't want this thought. But the fact that I had and I enjoyed this thought for a second, I mean, I did enjoy it. This is like, otherwise it wouldn't come. I'm throwing it away because there's something way bigger that's called God, and he gave me this thought, so I love him way more. If I enjoyed this thought so much, and that's just the pips that I don't even want, I'm throwing it away, oh my God, I'm going to enjoy the source so much more. So basically that's what you do to get it out of your system, and just to make it, I'm not even saying putting out of the system because it might come again, but you turn it into good, okay? Into sweetness, the bitterness, the fact that you just had that bad thought that represents a bad thing. So it also says, okay, so basically that's what it says. Okay. I'm not saying that's a high kind of practice. I'm not saying it's easy. You don't remember to do it, but if you practice it a lot, you're gonna be able to like mindfully do it. Like whenever it happens, you're gonna be able to recognize the thought and say, yeah, I don't want that. So right away, you know how to do it, but it takes practice. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so second thing is, so if that was like mindful thinking, so now we're going into like whenever something really happens in life, actually happens in life. So basically it says that when you feel proud, I don't know, this pride that's inside of you, so makes you not like when something bad happens. You kind of feel too proud, the fact that something bad happened to you, and it kind of hurts your ego. So this whole thing is like basically talking about the ego. Like you actually feel that you have like that you hold yourself high in some levels, and basically it's saying you need to have modesty. You have to think lesser of yourself, not because you don't, he's not say, it doesn't say don't own the good you have. It does say own it, because this is, you worked hard, whatever. But like if I tell you, you look nice today, and you could say thank you, but you understand that if you're looking beautiful, it's not because you're beautiful. I mean, okay, you're beautiful, but someone made you beautiful, and that's God. If I say anything good about how smart you are because I don't know, whatever you did that was amazing, or you won a game, or you did anything that had to do with your own talent, and if you think that you're the boss of this talent, so you're going to fall into this bad place, which is bitter. Just the fact that you don't have someone above you, that's bitterness, because you hold it to yourself. And when you're going to fall, and you are going to fall because you're not God, we fall sometimes. So that brings bitterness. So it says here, like, if you have to cancel this ego part inside of you. And putting yourself, it's not putting yourself down, but basically it says, like, the process of like putting your ego down or lowering it or working on it and not taking yourself as like the highest thing around here. So that itself is, that work is bitter. It's hard to do it. It kind of feels like someone's killing you from the inside sometimes. You see pride people having to lower themselves. It's hard. So it says, but when you work right and you really get to taste the true humility, that's actually a very sweet thing, because when you put all that aside and you understand that who's ever above you is God, and everything you have is godly because he gave you, so you actually feel really rich because, oh my God, I got all these presents, whatever. I got my mind, I got this house, I got these kids, I got the greatest car ever. Whatever you want to feel, that just don't feel, and just be thankful for having it. That enough, always saying thank you for everything, that enough is the way to break the ego, because you did not do everything your own. If you didn't have help from heaven or from whatever, I would say God, you could say whatever you want, helping you do it, giving you the strength, giving you the breath to even move to do it. When you think about all the things you had to have and all the conditions you had to have in order to do anything, that's humility. Okay. So that's a second way. And then so basically it says, like, whenever bad things are going to happen to you, and you are able to put your head down for a moment and not fight everything. So that's how you fix the ego, and that's how you turn bitterness into good. Because people who are bitter, they have this ego, they're not going to be able to feel the sweetness because they're going to have to fight all the time. But when you break the ego and you throw your bitterness away, it becomes a sweet life because you just accept everything that happens to you. Third, so I really connect to that. So third tip to having a life where you are able to turn bitterness into sweetness is just good thinking of on anything that happens to you and everybody who's around you. It's in Hebrew we call it a kaf zchut. I don't know what's the title in this for English. Basically, it means just to think good. Let me think for a sec. Okay, so I checked, and it basically says to judge someone favorably. Okay, so I don't know. In Hebrew, there's an actual word for it and not phrase more than word. But that's what it means. And like if there's someone sitting in jail and then he comes out, the feeling, the bad, he paid his dues, whatever he did, something bad, he went in. The fact that he was sitting there for such a long time and now he's out of it, that's basically taking the bitterness and turn it into good, like really literal way, actually. So if that's like an action in true life, so we could actually do it in our mind to see someone who's basically a bad, like he's doing something bad. My mind takes it like as a bad person, the first instinct, like that's bad. So for a second, this person represents bad, like in my eyes, right? Or in my mind. So the action of just judging favorably at this person right now, just thinking, he probably had a good reason, or maybe he was suffering a lot if he had to behave like this, or maybe he was just out of it. Doesn't mean you have to favor with the action. It just says think favorably of this person. Just in your mind, try to find that in you. That by itself has such a great power to actually, even like, it actually works. Even they have, I think they actually even checked it in labs. There's like, because they checked everything today already, in behavioral, like people who actually, they check like behaviors. So this is also a behavioral thing. So just looking at this person like he didn't mean it or whatever gives him hope that he might be better. Think of us like when we were small and there are like teachers that would think they wouldn't believe in us. It made us believe we're not capable, but enough that there was this one person in our life that thought we're good, and they showed us that they really think we're good. They don't even have to show, we feel who thinks good about us. That alone gives us a lot of strength to get better. So what it says here basically, that so even on ourselves, like if we're doing something that means that we're not good, or if we think bad about ourselves, because we make mistakes, we do make mistakes. What if I'm gonna mess it up with my spouse, I'm gonna mess it up with my kid, I'm gonna mess it up at work. I'm gonna have to mess up because I'm a person. So at these kind of times, whenever I take a bad situation and that I just judge favorably myself, that alone is turning bitterness into sweetness. And sometimes we're going to have to do it on people. Like someone hurt us, we're going to have to judge favorably if we want to turn bitterness into sweetness. It doesn't mean accept the actions. It doesn't mean just, if we want to fix the emotions that comes along with it. And if we want to change, just feel better altogether about whatever happens in our life. So that's a way to do it. I hope this was practical enough. I hope this was helpful a lot. Those are 3 ways how to take bitterness, bitter feelings, or bitter whatever, and just give them a sweet come out. Because really, really, if we think of it, like it's the bitter parts in our life that if we know how to grow out of them, it makes us who we are. And that alone is a very sweet thought, and it's people who have been through tough times that were able to overcome it and do big sweet actions to a lot of people in the world who are going through those bitter places. So altogether, bitterness is meant to become sweet. We just have to know how to do it and not wait for something like for a miracle to happen, just so these were ways to actually be able to actually turn bitterness into sweetness. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next week. Bezrat Hashem, meaning to do it.